just three different thoughts from Hillel. And now we're going to go on to Shammai and see what he has to share with us. So here we go. There. Okay. So Shammai, who was a contemporary of Hillel, we've discussed a little about the two of them. We'll discuss a little more about them. Just a reminder that Hillel passed away in the year 8 of the Common Era. He lived to a very old age, till 120. There's a few people that lived to ripe old ages. Moses, Moshe Rabbeinu, Rabbi Akiva. Hillel. Oh, okay, fine. And Shammai, who was, I think, younger, lived on after him. So they were the two leaders of the Jewish people in their time, Shammai and Hillel. And this is what he has to say. Shammai used to say, make your study of the Torah a fixed practice. In the Hebrew, which is always important to appreciate in the Hebrew because, the original language, Shammai would asay torascha keva, make it keva. Keva translated over here as fixed practice. You can see there's many different plays on the word that give us an insight into what that is talking about. Now, we're studying Torah now, so that's an important thing that we need to bear in mind. Shammai is giving us an insight on how our Torah study should be at this moment. Keva, fixed practice. We'll come to some of the commentators and their explanation of this. And more ma'at v'aseh harbe. Speak little and do much. That's a common saying in the Western world. Receive all men, all people, with a pleasant countenance. So some of the questions here, again, make your Torah study keva, fixed. The word keva comes from like boa mezuzah. The blessing we make when we put up a mezuzah is to set the mezuzah, because you're supposed to set it in its place. So it's from the same root to set. So we want to understand more detail what that is. And more ma'at, v'aseh harbe, and say little and do a lot. That might be self-understood. And here we have receive every person with a pleasant countenance. So it's interesting, the words are receive. What does it mean receive? As opposed to give, right? In other words, give a pleasant countenance, show a pleasant countenance. But that's not what it says over here. Mikabel means to receive. That's interesting, diuk, exactingness on the terminology. And savor panim, yafes, savor means a countenance. No, panim yafes means a pleasant countenance. Savor, I don't even know how to translate that properly, actually. That's the term, and how to give a little, more into that. Does anybody have their own questions? No answers right now. Let's just some questions. I have actually another question. What's the connection between your Torah study, doing a little and saying a little and doing a lot, and receiving all people in a pleasant manner? They seem to be random ideas, all beautiful, good ideas, but is there a connection between them? How do we see that? That's another actually important question. Anybody? No?
What is meant by pleasant countenance? Because in my interpretation, that would be grace.
Well, we'll go more into that. Pleasant countenance means literally the face you're showing, right? What's the face you're showing people? A pleasant one. Receive all people with a pleasant countenance.
It seems like a metaphor.
Mm-hmm.
Rabbi, I would hazard and say that it's a lifestyle. So not only do you study Torah, but the act of studying Torah manifests itself in the way how you live.
Okay,
So
excellent.
Right? So you're
Right.
not a box.
Excellent. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
However, why this way? What is the connection over here?
Rabbi Fine?
Study of Torah can reflect itself in many different ways. Yes, go ahead, Davida.
Could it also be because we are one, and what we see in someone else is what we see in ourselves, and that since we're one people, we do one mitzvahs, that we're all connected through mitzvahs?
So are you asking a question or are you giving a statement or an answer? I'm not clear.
Well, if I'm right, I'm giving a statement. If I'm wrong, I'm giving a question.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. You're not wrong. But before we answer, I wanted to have, all the questions so we can then, proceed with all the answers. But no, not wrong. All right. Let's go through some answers over here. Okay. I'm going to do this little by little, because what we're going to do is give it different commentators. First, what we go is to the Rishonim, the main commentators of the Pirkei Avos, like the Bartanura, the Rambam, and then we'll go into the Rebbe's explanation and other explanations. So let's go through this. So the first statement, make your Torah study a fixed practice. So interesting that the Rambam says, now, anybody knows anything about Maimonides, right? Knows Maimonides. Well, he was a physician. He was a leader of the community in Cairo, in Egypt, the Jewish community. He was a man of not just all trades, but such an engaged individual. It boggles the mind to understand how he possibly wrote the Mishneh Torah and everything else that he wrote because of his crazy schedule. A physician that he saw many patients daily. And in any case, so the Rambam says, what is this saying over here? That we have many pursuits in life and many engagements, many responsibilities, and we have a livelihood that needs to be earned. He says, but the primary thing in your life that you should do is what we're doing right now, studying Torah. And by the way, kol hakavod to everybody here. This is, the middle of the day. And what could you be engaged in? Making a living, right? But he says that should all be secondary. And if you succeed in other endeavors, good. And if not, no great loss. Because what did you do? You engaged in the most primary and important thing in your life, the study of Torah. This is what the Rambam says. This is what he says. The Bartanura says, interesting, like a twist on this idea. And I don't know if twist is the right word, but, he says, and I relate to it personally. It says, study Torah when you are fully alert. And when you got to go to work, do it when you're sleepy. The opposite of what most people will do. Most people, what they'll do, their alert hours will be for work and other, pleasurable activity, if work is one of them, right? And then, we all have to study Torah, but when are you going to do it? Later at night when you're tired or at other time, you'll fit it in and so on. No. Do it the other way around. Your alert hours give to the study of Torah. Then when you're tired and you don't have any strength left, then go work. This is what he's saying that Shammai is saying, right? This is what Shammai, he's explaining in Shammai's explanation. Okay. Now, so that's the first. I'm going to give different layers. I'm starting off with the simple layer of meaning, and then we'll go to a greater layer of understanding or a deeper understanding. Do say little and do a lot. So that is given an example of Abraham, who said little but did a lot. When the angels came to him, he said he would provide them with some bread. In the end, he gave them a meal fit for a king with meat and mustard and all kind of delicacies. He said little but did a lot. On the other hand, Ephraim, the Hittite, when Abraham came to bury his wife Sarah, so he made grand gestures of, giving the plot of land in Hebron for nothing. After all, we're brothers and so on and so forth. In the end, he took full price. So a wicked person is the opposite. They promise the world and they deliver next to nothing, if not nothing, right? So that is something that is more self-understood. Okay. The last statement, that you should receive everybody with a proper countenance. So the Rambam explains, you need to be congenial and you should be always with a sweet word to another individual. The Bartanura says that when you help others, it should be with a pleasant demeanor. Meaning, sometimes you could do the world for another person. You could do so much for them. But when you don't do it with a pleasant demeanor, so it's worthless. That's what the Bartanura explains. It needs to be with that kind of pleasantness. Okay. That's one layer of explanation. The Ben Ish Chai, which is a Sephardic Iraqi great sage from the last maybe 150 years ago. So he says the whole thing is really speaking about Torah. And that's his tie-in. Now, with what we just explained, I don't see so clearly a tie-in at this moment. Maybe there is, in a way. I'll explain it briefly in a bit. The Ben Ish Chai says that it's really only speaking about the Torah study. That when you make your Torah study in a permanent manner, and you really devote yourself to Torah insights, they will become permanent. What does it mean they're going to become permanent? In other words, your teachings will be quoted by others. You'll have to say little, but a lot will be done. That's how he ties in the first two things. You can say little, but it will do a lot. In other words, the effect that it will have on others will be profound. So your insights, your teachings, if the insights of Torah teachings for you are of a permanent nature, and that's the word keva, right, that we said earlier, that brings out the concept of permanence. When your teachings have a permanence to them, how? In the effect that they have on others, that you say a little, but a lot is done through it. That's true Torah teachings. So then he says, well, how do you get there? So this is the interesting thing. When you have a congenial manner, demeanor to all people, that when you will teach, your teachings will go far. You can say a little, but the effect of it will be Very great. That's very interesting teaching. So, but what's nice, I mean, it's a powerful idea, but what's also beautiful about the teaching is that it ties in all three ideas, right? All three ideas are tied in as a result. Again, your Torah teaching, when they are done in that permanent manner, so the insights that you will have, the teachings that you will give over will be, even though you said a little, but will have a great impact. They will go far. They will do a lot of work. They will work. They will work on others, so to speak, on their own. And how is that? Because you have a friendly face to all, meaning it's because when you're teaching, it's very easy to teach to someone who is, first of all, intelligent, secondly, who's engaged and is into it and gets it. But then you have people, they don't get it. And it's easy for someone to lose their patience or to lose their, so that's what it says over here. He says over here, when you teach it in a manner that you are engaged in a friendly manner to even the one who has a difficulty, it will have its effect. So it's very insightful, beautiful thought. Vilma, I see your hand up.
Yes, thank you. I do see that, people like you who teach have inspired me, by your pleasantness. And it's something that I try to do with my son. Like, it's not that people notice, your words so much, but like everything, how we behave, how we speak, our tone, our face, like everything tells like a different story about, like, you could be doing like good things, but not really, like you said, feeling it and, people seeing it that way.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Vilma. Thank you for sharing that. So, the truth of it, think about it for a moment. It's it's not always it's not always as simple as someone might think it is. I mean, it'd be nice, we're all nice people and we should be nice and so on and so forth. That's true, obviously. But when you're teaching and you're teaching something, that kind of the light of it embraces you. So there's going to be a natural disposition that when you're teaching it, first of all, because of the enthusiasm and the realness of the teachings, that it's gonna what's the word I'm looking for? It's going to create I don't know what's the word. It's not going to create a softness. It's not going to be a softness as a result, because when something is very real just to share for a moment, I was in a discussion about what's going on in Israel with somebody, and like, to me, the hypocrisy of the media, the hypocrisy of people and how they see, the people, that Hamas is, the victims and so on. It's like so real to me. It's like so like in my face obvious. It's hard for me, I'll be quite frank, to sometimes have a discussion about it, and where a point of view will be given that is even merely suggesting any kind of innocence or any kind of victimhood, right? And that's full in the media. I actually don't want to even look at any of the stuff and some of the commentators and what they say, because it's just it's extremely upsetting.
Yeah, that's why I don't.
You're smart, Katie. You're smarter than me. What can I tell you? so I try not to either. But whatever. Everybody has a Yetzer Hara. Yeah. So now, why I'm giving this as a metaphor, right? Why am I saying this? Because all of you are shaking your heads and in an agreement and an understanding that when you hear this, your rationality and the logic that you have and the understanding that you have, if you were to discuss that at that moment, you would be very harsh. You would be very strong. You would be very like, right? And not necessarily that's the right thing for, you know why? That's what we just learned over here. When you're teaching and you're giving over an idea, you can be so fully engaged in it, so fully alive with it. It's so real for you, right? So real for you. See my metaphor now? That what's going to happen, you're going to lose your congeniality. It's very easy to do that. It's so simple, especially if you're going to hear somebody now arguing a point with you or saying something contrary to the way you see it, so real, and that you're going to, not be congenial. And it's very easy to happen. Even though this might be not like, we're not talking about Hamas victimhood over here and the lives of innocent people that were taken because of that, and even the innocent lives of their people that they're responsible for, right? Included. So, okay, that maybe makes it more emotional because we're talking about life and death over here. But in Torah learning, we're not talking life and death. We're talking about, unless Torah learning is so life and death to you that it is so permanent to you, like the Rambam says that's what you should be engaged in. Bartanura says that's what your good hours spent in Torah study and your sleepy hours spent working. So it becomes so real for you. It becomes life and death for you, and in the sense that it is, it has a permanence and a meaning that it brings life to the world. Our Torah study, it is bringing life to the world. It's bringing life to us and to our, we see how it uplifts us. So as a result, it might not be so easy to be always with a pleasant countenance. So what is Bnei Shechai saying? That when you will teach in such a way, and especially we're teaching someone who is au contraire, or is like, is just kind of like on their own, like, sometimes you can say something and someone says something and responds and says, and you can see that they didn't really listen to what you just said, because they went on their own path with something, like, and where were you for the last 10 minutes? So it's very easy then not to be congenial, not to have the Sefer Panim Yafes, right? It's very easy. The truth is, you got to work on that. It doesn't come simply. If it's just lovey-dovey stuff that is meaningless, just the teachings aren't meaningful. It's just let's hang out and have nice time, and we'll just share some cutesy ideas. Yeah, because then it's not permanent for you. It's not real for you. So then, big deal. Yeah, then of course you can be congenial, because what you're learning and you're studying is not really meaningful to you. What's meaningful to you is the study is sort of like the excuse to get together. That's right. It's like for many people, Shabbos is an excuse for family coming together. No, Shabbos is not about family coming together. Shabbos is about the observance of Shabbos. If you can do it with your family, beautiful. And if not, it's still Shabbos, and it still needs to be beautiful. same thing here. We're coming to learn something real, Torah, that's permanent, that the teachings are impactful, that you can say a little and has a great impact. How? Because you're not going to lose the warmth and the love and the, through the teachings. You shouldn't lose that. There should be that, being able to connect to that person who, they went adrift and didn't listen to you for the last 10 minutes and had their own stuff to, to share. And when you can do that, that's what the Mishneh is saying here. But don't think for a moment necessarily that's so simple. And I give that the metaphor of the conversation I had with somebody who was presenting the other side, not that they even believed in it, right? But they're just presenting the other side. I got emotional. It should have been more congenial. Is that clear? It's a powerful idea. L'chaim. My cup ran the thunder. I have to get a l'chaim here. Reggie, you're the only one. Look at that. Everybody else has l'chaim but me. I'm getting a l'chaim. Don't run away. And think about that and share. Anybody has something to share? Share it now.
I think I kind of feel the same. I feel like right now I have to concentrate a lot on Torah study because of that. Because for some reason, I feel like I have to educate myself on what's going on, but at the same time, I don't want to see what's going on.
You're talking about in the world.
Yes, in the world and in everything, well, I mean, the whole anti-Semitism and the whole, everything that's going on in Israel, because like you said, it incites things emotions that you don't want to feel because you want to have that positivity. You want to continue to just feel everything that you feel when you're studying Torah,
Yes.
and to me, it's like, that's why I feel like I have to just kind of just not look at the media, I mean, but at the same time, you're just in this, like, maybe I do need to know, but at the same time, it's like, no, I need to pay attention to, Hashem's word, because ultimately that's what's giving me my comfort, and that's what's keeping me, or that's what's preserving me. That's what's sustaining me. That's what's getting me through this, and that's what's going to get us all through this, because ultimately He's under control.
Well, yeah. Thank you for sharing that. Well said. So it's true, and probably most of the things that we need to know, we'll find out. So, I don't know if we have to be news junkies or anything like that, because it is mostly depressing, and we need to be full of joy. And it's not like, we're going to know the information that the news will relate to us and that it's going to change anything that we're going to do. If anything, it's just going to make us more scared people, and because of that we will act differently, but it's not going to change, it's not going to change that much, if anything. So yeah.
That is unless we have our own media, our own independent media. That's a possibility.
Right. Yeah, you're right. Chabad.org. That's our that's our own independent media. So all the news that's fit to print, that's healthy and and positive news.
Right.
Yeah. But yeah, again, that ties in with the idea here. All those things we will find out. Whatever we need to know. If you're ignorant about some of the occurrences in the world, It's not the worst thing in the world. I think that's what the Rambam said in the beginning here, right? The rest is secondary, and if you succeed in secondary things, good, and if not, it's okay. It's all secondary. Okay. Let's go now to even a deeper level of understanding this. We gave two explanations till now. One was Torah study is, primary. Other things are secondary. You should do little, say little, and do a lot. And all people you should greet in a congenial manner. Ben Ish Chai ties them all together. Congenial manner means that your Torah study will be able to have an effect on others by saying a little. The permanence that you have in it will bring a long-term effect on others, even though you said a little, because it will do a lot. It will do a lot, your Torah study, which is a very powerful idea. So now let's take it a bit further. What does it mean? I asked the question, keva. Keva means to affix, to affix. So there's a cute story of a father who took his son to London, England, not London, Ontario, Diane. Sorry.
Funny.
And brought him there to I don't know where it is exactly, but the Big Ben, the clock, the Big Ben, somewhere in the square of or downtown London or wherever it is. And his son had to pick up his head so high to be able to see the clock. It was a little little of a challenge. So he says to his father, why is the clock so high? Why don't they make the clock a little lower so it's easier? You have to bend your neck so high to go and take a look at the clock there. Make it a little lower. His father goes into a meditative thought for a moment. Says, if they would put the clock lower, so what would happen? People would look at their clock and they say, oh, Big Ben is off by a minute. And they would go, change the hand by a minute, and then another person would come and say, oh, off by 2 minutes. Go the other way and change it, for 2 minutes. So Big Ben is really high because he's got the right time. And we got to fix our time to his time rather than we fix his time to our time. So that's a metaphor, obviously, right? L'chaim. What does it mean? What's fixed in our lives and what's temporary, so to speak, in our lives? So Torah study should be fixed. In other words, there's a permanence to it. It is the guiding post. It is the things that we got to pick up our necks and to work towards, to make, we have to be in line with it. So the fact that it's fixed first means we're aligned with it, not the other way around, that we align it with us, according to our temperament, according to our, world and so on. That's the first point. Second point is that it's fixed in time, right? Big Ben's fixed in time, so it's fixed in time. What does that mean? You have a time to learn, that's fixed. You have a time to eat, that could be moved. You have a time to work, that could also be moved. I mean, obviously, if you work for somebody and you have to be at a certain time, so, then it's Torah that tells you you got fixed time, right? Because you're working for somebody and that hour that hour is owned by your boss. The time is owned by your boss. You got to work for that hour. Okay, fine. You got lunchtime? Oh, fixed, like now, it's lunchtime. You got fix a time to study Torah. Affix it, make it the real thing. Make it the permanent thing. Make it the thing that will be the permanence of the day. So the Rebbe explains even further, not only fixed in time, right? Not only fixed in value, like Big Ben, we got to stretch our neck to it. We got to fix according to it. It's our guiding post, right? So not only in moral value, but not only in time, that it is the permanence, right? And our day revolves around that. That, just think about that for a moment. That's amazing. That you have a fixed time every day, 9:30 in the morning that you learn Tanya, 12 o'clock you come and learn Torah, right? The notion of that it's fixed and that the other things work around it, not the other way around. What is that saying? That's saying something remarkable, that this is truly real for you. And the other things are secondary because they can work around. So that's tying in with the Rambam, what the Rambam Bartanura said, right? And where does that all come from? Because it's fixed in your heart. In your heart, it's fixed the notion that Torah study is the real thing. Sorry, Coke, you got booted. You're secondary. Torah, it's the real thing.
That's kind of funny. I'm actually, and I was going to ask, can I do L'chaim on a Coke? But it has to be.
You could do L'chaim on a Coke, sure. The sugar high, Sure, absolutely.
I think we should all have one of those mugs. Those are really neat.
Yeah, I think I'm planning to produce them. So we'll let you know soon. So that's what the Rebbe says. And when there's that permanence to the Torah study, even if it's at 15 minutes, 45 minutes, half an hour, whatever it is, but for you that's the real thing, that's the permanence of your day, it will illuminate the rest of your day. Then that will illuminate the rest of your day, that you're not a big talker and you're a real big doer. And that your engagement with every other individual will be a healthy engagement. And the Rebbe explains over here, interesting. What happens when your primary pursuit or your permanence in heart is the study of Torah? What kind of personality are you going to be? Are you going to be an extrovert because of it? No, you're going to be an introvert. By nature, Torah study is going to make you more introspective, right? You're going to say little, do a lot, because you're more introspective as a result. You're not so congenial then. That's the last thing that is said then. In other words, the fact that you study Torah and you make it permanent will bring you to action, and Torah needs to bring you to action, so you're going to say little and do a lot. Connection between the two of them, right? But then that this is what we call milsa de chasidusa, beyond the letter of the law. Well, first of all, that you're making Torah so much it's the real thing. That's beyond the letter of the law. You don't have to do that by the letter of the law, right? Your work could be more important to you than your Torah study by the letter of the law, right? But so when this happens, so what naturally being that Torah makes you more introspective, that was going to make you more, not as congenial by nature. So the opposite now, you have to work on the other extreme. You have to make sure that you are, don't become this hermit, and that you receive everybody. Receive, what's receive? That means before they come, you're already congenial, right? How do you receive everybody is because you've received a congenial warmth as a result. Torah is absolute, Torah is truth, and the more you learn it, the more it's going to be more difficult to engage with other people because it's of the introspective nature of it. But therefore, you have to work on yourself that you now are, before you greet or meet anybody, you already are congenial because therefore you can receive them that way. You only receive them that way because you are that way, right? And it doesn't say show a good face, a congenial face. It doesn't say show a fine countenance. That's what it says. It doesn't show. It says receive. Receive. That means you have to be that way to receive them. It means you are that way before they've come to you. Because when they come to you, you are that way. That way you're able to receive them that way, as opposed to show a fine, a nice countenance, a cheerful countenance. I hope I explained that clear. Was that clear? In the word mikabel.
Yes.
Yes. So,
Yes.
Rabbi, as I understand what you're saying, the Torah changes people like on the inside. And like, as far as I understand it, Torah's ways are pleasant and peaceful. So that is what the person becomes then, right?
Yes, yes, but that comes through work. That's the point. In other words, if you study a whole day and you're taking it serious and it's real for you and it's absolute truth, well then people who are not living that absolute truth, and don't take it seriously, the nature of the person would be that you are not so cheerful towards them, right? Not so cheerful towards it. That would be the nature of anybody. That makes sense, right? From that perspective of being engaged in learning, though, whatever amount of time, a good part of the day, let's say, or that even if it's not a lot, but this is so valuable to you that, it's easy to become intolerant because you're learning the truth and you're, engaging and trying to live the truth. How you're living the truth? Well, you say a little and you do a lot. So you're really living it. So now when you're going to engage with other people, it's very easy that you're going to be intolerant. That's just the nature of the human being. That's not because Torah did that. It's just because the human condition is that. So therefore, Shammai is saying, be careful. You need to be cheerful and countenance to every person. In other words, you got to go counter what this Torah learning can do, what it could do, if you're not aware of it and not working on it. That's what he's saying. And therefore, there's beautiful tie-in over here.
But isn't that about rising above your own biases, which is everyone?
No, not specific. No, that's not the vort over here. That's not the what Shammai is saying over here. Shammai is saying, when you are learning Torah in a real way, in really a total engagement, right? In a way that it is permanent in your heart. It's the real thing. Sorry, Katie, but you can have the Coke. Only for drinking purposes, but not for the real thing. And then it leads you to say little and do a lot, right? So you're really an engaged person, not just in the study, but you are now taking it and living it. by nature, if you're
Right.
not aware of that, that can lead you, or if not, will lead you to not being cheerful to everyone, because, you know, you're taking life really seriously. And most people don't. Most people don't take life real seriously, or, you know, or I mean, you know, owning their life and making something of their lives in a spiritual manner that is, you know, a value. And therefore, it's very easy not to be cheerful to all people. So therefore, Shammai has to say that, hey, be careful. That's what the Rebbe is saying. You got to counter all of that to make sure that you don't lose yourself in absolute teachings of this real Torah, that it now makes you into someone who's intolerant. That's I think is, you know, that's the message here.
So are you basically saying
Is that what happened?
Go, sorry, hey, go ahead,
I'm sorry.
Reggie.
Mhm.
Any go ahead.
Is that what happened to Shimon ben Yochai when they left the cave and he started burning things down? He was sent back.
Yeah, yeah, you could say that, absolutely. He was living 12 years with Torah study and nothing more, you know, and such a divine level of it that was like, wow. Although that's on a very lofty level. That was more of in a very different kind of lofty level, but it's a similar, you know, to use as a metaphor. Yeah, very good, Reggie. Denise, sorry, go ahead.
What I see is basically striking a balance in life. So Torah study makes you introverted, introspective, but you need to balance that with being cheerful with people. And in terms as well to speak a little, but you balance that with doing a lot. So it's all balance. So
Yep.
it's equilibrium.
Yep, there's a balance here. Exactly. Anybody else? Question, comment? Wow, powerful idea.
I was just thinking it's tricky because like when I learn this kind of stuff, I don't talk to anyone about this stuff. So I guess I'm very introverted. But then that's just the way it goes. It comes out when I'm working just because you learn Torah and then it radiates from your being type thing, but I don't go and I talk to people about it.
Right. So I don't think Shammai is saying here necessarily about the conversation about the Torah that you have with others. I think it means about a demeanor that it can develop in the person that you have to be on guard for, and to make certain that that demeanor doesn't leave you as an introvert who becomes like this hermit, you know, staying away from people and, you know, and not engaging with people, you know. No, engage, receive them. In other words, be already congenial, that when you engage, you receive them in such a manner. Yeah. So so it's not, you know, not necessarily that you're sharing the teachings in that manner. It's just that it can make your character in such a way so that you need that, like Denise said, you know, to make sure that we're balanced. Exactly. But yeah, thank you for sharing, Katie. All right, folks.
Well, I guess it would be kind of sobering. Like, oh, I guess you're getting out.
I didn't catch that. It would be what?
Oh no, I was going to say something, but then it sounds like you're tuning out and the baby's crying in the background. They're probably going to want me to go in there anyways. So.
Oh, okay. So you're saying a little and doing a lot. That's what it sounds like, Katie. Okay, that's great. Okay, wonderful. We shall continue, God willing, tomorrow. Have a great afternoon, good evening, and thank you all for sharing.
Thank you, Rabbi. Very good class.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Tomorrow morning.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Yeah.
Bye.
I really love
Bye.
this
Bye
class.
bye.
It's
Great
wonderful.
class as always.
I posted a bunch of comments if you want to see them later. So
Oh, I'm sorry.
no, that's quite all right.
I'm really bad with the. It's
And
hard.
I agree with you,
Michael. On the, it's hard for me to read it on the whatchamacallit. If you can
I know. It's
send
okay.
it to me.
No, in a nutshell, just I find peace usually in these kind of events, and it gives me a good countenance just out of being here, levels me off. The stuff there just tells you what didn't level me off, and I got animated like you do. So that's somewhat what I was getting into there.
Right.
As far as the rest, no, I just try to be positive and outgoing and engage when I can and know my place when I have to.
Right.
Agree.
Well, thank you.
Beautiful.
And thank you.
Beautiful.
And
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank
Good
you
day.
all. Sei gesund. Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.
Mhm. Bye.